But other things do happen, other things are of importance, and other things will be discussed in this portion of the program, and we will do so tonight. We will be in particular taking a look at the Republican National Convention that starts on Monday, and that will start regardless of activities such as this. And we're joined in this portion of the program by Richard Viguerie, who is chairman of conservativehq.com. Richard, good to have you with us tonight.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Jim.
A couple of things, of course, to talk about, even before we get to the running mate story, and Donald Trump has understandably postponed his official announcement, even though we're now pretty sure who it is, and we'll talk about that. But even before that, something that may not have been noticed by everybody, but it should be noted, and that is the Republican National Convention's Rules Committee has defeated an effort by some conservatives who wanted to let delegates vote for any presidential candidate, which is to say the last stand, if you will, of the Stop Trump movement. Your thoughts about that decision?
Well, I think it was the right decision. Very few conservatives that I know, and I've been with literally hundreds of conservative leaders in this week, and only maybe 2 or 3 that I've talked to are never Trumpers. My position and what I talk about to them, and I think most conservatives are talking like this now, that if you are not for Trump, that means you are for Hillary. And, it's unfortunate that a few people are bitter inners there, but they don't represent the majority of the conservatives. Now, Jim, I'd say quick to also add that Trump has not closed the deal with conservatives. I was with the 1,000 evangelical Christian conservatives that met with Trump in New York a few weeks ago. He didn't do himself any harm, but he didn't do himself a lot of good. He still, needs to do some work. If he does add Pence to the ticket, he's dodged a fatal mistake there because he could have put, I guess, Christie on there, or Paul Ryan, or General Flynn, John Kasich, which would have been a real deal killer for conservatives. But he still has some work to do. But we want to try to make this thing work, because we take the position that if you are not for Trump, you're for Hillary.
Well, in terms of practicality, of course, one of those two is going to be the 45th President of the United States. I've had this discussion with any number of callers and guests on this program, and I've always said, it's your vote. You can vote any way you want to, but make no mistake about it, Gary Johnson is not going to be President of the United States. Dr. Gil Stein of the Green Party is not going to be President of the United States. In the case of Johnson, if he gets enough support, 15% in the poll averages, to get included in the debate, he may very well have an impact on the outcome, one that is at this juncture not easy to calculate, and we can talk about that a bit later on, but he's not going to get enough to win. The most successful third-party effort in recent memory, Ross Perot, it's interesting to remember how many states he carried. That would be 0. It would be interesting to also note how many states in which he came in second in 1992. That would be 2. He came in second in New Hampshire behind Bill Clinton, second in Utah behind George H.W. Bush. It's not going to happen. So if one of these two is going to be the president, I am concerned that my vote will be used to help determine that. I was never a Trump supporter, and I am not what you would call a Trump supporter now. But we are faced with real-world choices. And if we have a choice of bad or worse, rational people will choose bad every time to keep worse out. And that is exactly my view, and it will be my view in November as I vote for Donald Trump. Your thoughts?
Well said, Jim. If you go to your optometrist, he says, he doesn't say, Jim, which is more clear? Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. No, he just says 1 or 2. 2 or 1. And that's a version of what you just said. It's going to be Trump or Hillary, 1 or 2. And there's no other choices available to you. So if you're not for 1, then you are for number 2.
Yeah, and again, remember, the next president will be in a position to shape the Supreme Court, assuming, of course, that you get Senate confirmation, and we can talk about that as well. But the next president will be able to shape the Supreme Court until the middle of this century. Now, that's a huge power.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just think of all the things that will change if Hillary is president. Forget your Second Amendment rights. Forget your First Amendment rights. They will, try to abolish Citizens United, have the government fund campaigns. Hillary said it's time that people give up their long-held, strongly held religious views. So your religious views have to go away if Hillary is president. There's just a long list of things, that are going to radically change. Obama promised us he was going to fundamentally change America, and he's gone a long ways towards that. But we ain't seen nothing yet. If Hillary is president, we won't recognize this country in 4 years.
Yeah, it's something that I think that Richard Viguerie said that we need to drive home. If you're not pleased with the status of this country right now, as are many people, including Richard and myself, trust me, give Hillary 4 to 8 years. And in particular, if you let her win enough of a landslide to eat into the Republican lead in the House and perhaps even retake the Senate, you will look on the Barack Obama days as the good old days.
Oh, absolutely. The Republican Party, Jim, is known as the stupid party, but the Democrats are the evil party. As upset as I am and concerned about Trump in this area or that area, Trump's not going to get up every morning thinking, what 3, 4, 5 things can I do today to crush the conservatives, to put people in jail, to abolish conservative organizations, even in the Bill Clinton administration. And it happened, of course, again under Obama. In the Bill Clinton administration, 25 major conservative organizations were under IRS audit. And they came after the conservatives with a vengeance, and Obama has continued that. As I said, the Democratic Party is the evil party. They will use the police power of the state to put their opponents out of business, in jail, whatever it takes.
Well, they certainly have a track record, and as you note, that does include, in fact, the past two-term administrations. There is such a track record, and of course, when similar activities were discovered on the part of the country by Richard Nixon, we know what happened to Richard Nixon. That did not happen to Bill Clinton, and it did not happen to Barack Obama. Now, before the break here, we'll just take one more look at what the Rules Committee of the Republican Party has done prior to the opening of the Republican Convention come Monday, and that is some of the rules there. Now, there are a couple of rules that there are standing rules, and there are rules that can be changed every year. In the Republican Rule Book, Rule 37B, delegates can take exception to or question the state delegation chair's tally of the delegation vote. There's also a Rule 16 that makes it hard for delegates to ignore these rules and vote for a candidate other than the one to which they are, quote, bound to. The rule gives the Secretary of the Convention the power to record votes as bound under state party rule. But again, how bound is it? We just had a judge in Virginia say that a state law that would have bound the delegates must take second place to the Republican Party rules on the subject. So where do we stand, and where do you think we should stand?
Well, I think we're a nation of laws, and I think that we started the process, we started the game, so to speak, with the rules, and I don't know after the game's been played that it's really the American way to go back and change the rules. I think everybody went into the game understanding the rules, and I think we should, play it out that way. It doesn't always work out where your side wins, but that's democracy.
And if you don't do that, then automatically people are free to say, well, the game really is fixed.
Yep.
The fix really is in. I mean, if you don't have a set of rules and abide by them, regardless of the outcome, even in this case when you have had what amounts to a hostile takeover of the Republican Party, well, the voters have spoken. So right. We'll come back and we'll talk some more. Again, Richard Viguerie, our guest, is chairman of conservativehq.com, and we're taking a look at things other than the horrific events in Nice, France this evening, although we will return to that in the next hour. 1-866-50-JIMBO is our number as we examine where the Republicans are headed. Again, the 11 a.m. announcement at Trump Tower scheduled for this coming morning, Friday morning, has been postponed, understandably, by Donald Trump. We'll come back and we'll talk about what is almost certainly what Mr. Trump will say, presumably Saturday or Sunday, because the convention opens on Monday, and we'll talk about it at that time. So there are all kinds of priorities and problems. How you look may seem minor, and in the context that we're talking about tonight, that would be true, but nonetheless, people are concerned about it. You can't stop the President of France. President Obama agrees, and he is certainly not one to plunge blindly into such a statement. Donald Trump says that we need to declare war on ISIS and that NATO should be enlisted in the fight against what he calls a cancer. We will continue talking about that in the third hour, but there are other important issues, and we will not ignore them, such as the one we're talking about now with Richard Viguerie, chairman of conservativehq.com, and with Dave in Creston, Iowa, as we look at where the Republican convention is heading now. Hello, Dave.
Hi, how are you, Jim? I'm getting in a little late. You had a discussion a while ago, just hit a real core in me when you said that Hillary was saying something about we're going to have to hold our opinions about a religion. I don't know how brain dead the United States is, but I can't understand why this wouldn't be affecting our freedom of speech.
Well, it is affecting our freedom of speech.
Well, yeah. What a stupid thing for her to say. I mean, I think, yeah, she must be out for a rocker or something.
I don't know if it's stupid. Again, assuming that you just want to get elected, there is unfortunately a constituency for that viewpoint. I think it's a stupid thing to say from the standpoint of governance, Richard Viguerie. I don't know how stupid it is politically. She's got people who will nod in agreement with that, Richard.
Oh, absolutely. And I might point out to Dave, unfortunately, she didn't say we'll have to hold their opinion. She wants us to change our opinion. So you're going to change your religious views and values. I mean, that's just words escape me to describe it. And the number one thing the Republicans have to do, Jim, to win is to be united. And I think with Pence, that helps bring that process closer to fruition. Number two, you must have a fighter. And Donald Trump is nothing if he is not a fighter. And I'm sure he's going to take this statement and make sure every American in the country knows how Hillary feels about strongly held religious views. So, and we didn't have that with John McCain. We didn't have that with Mitt Romney, a fighter. And Hillary is going to be engaged in a campaign that she's unfamiliar with. She hasn't gone up against somebody like, Donald Trump. And Democrats haven't had. They've mostly had people who were kind of soft, easygoing. George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, Bob Dole, McCain, Romney. This is going to be the most probably ideological fight.
Well,
anybody in our lifetime we can remember.
He'll be stubborn in terms of ideology. We can come back to that in a moment because nobody knows better than Richard Viguerie that Donald Trump is, shall we say, versatile of conviction on some issues.
Well,
but thank you for your call, Dave in Creston, Iowa. I want to turn now to the piece that you wrote at conservativehq.com. I'll just cite part of it here. Donald Trump could do a lot worse than Mike Pence as his running mate. However, ... And the whole piece is pretty much based on that. However, I gather that in this piece you differentiate between Mike Pence, congressman, and Mike Pence, governor.
Exactly. I spent some time with Mike Pence early in 2012 trying to talk him into running for president. And I know other conservatives did the same. We were excited about him. He had been our leader, challenging the Republican leaders, John Boehner, and others there for years in the House of Representatives. And he was, looking like he might be the next Ronald Reagan. And he came from talk radio like Reagan did, and he just, nice looking, well-spoken, articulate, and he just looked like he was going to be, the heir apparent to Ronald Reagan. And then he became governor of Indiana. And I've heard from a number of sources that his staff is not the type of staff that you would expect around a conservative leader. And so somehow or another he got off track. And it's not just that he abandoned his position on the Religious Liberty Amendment. It was also on Common Core and other issues. And the word that is describing, or the phrase that conservatives at the national leader, major conservative leaders are saying about Mike Pence is he lacks moral courage. And that's really a damning indictment, because if you don't have courage as a conservative, you're lost. And because regularly every day we're accused of being racist, bigots, homophobes, and you've got to have a lot of courage to stand up to those attacks. And he didn't evidence that courage on the Religious Liberty Amendment, and lost in almost support of every conservative that I know because of that.
1-866-50-JIMBO is our number, 1-866-505-4626. We're talking with Richard Viguerie. He is one of the major voices in conservative thought in this country and has been for the past, nigh on to half a century.
Well, exactly.
We'll continue our discussion here in just a second with Richard. Again, his website, conservativehq.com, as we look at where the Republican Party is going, where the Republican Convention is going, and the general election campaign. Again, 80 dead in Nice, France, and we'll update you on that in hour number 3. 1-866-50-JIMBO is our number. We'll be back in just a moment.